Erica Bennett is a global training guru and a coach who wants to help you break free from the chains that are holding you back. She's been training and coaching for over 2 decades, so she's refined her unique woo and do approach. Erica blends the mystical with the practical to empower you to align with your deepest desires and take confident strides towards success. She shares her own divorce journey on her podcast, The Crazy Ex-Wife's Club, offering hope and support to women facing similar challenges. Erica guides women through separation and divorce, empowering them to transform pain into purpose. Erica Bennett, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. This is going to be a fun chat today. I love these chats.
I think it's going to be fun too, because women who are getting divorced, they often feel crazy. They are often told by their husbands or their ex-husbands that they're crazy. It feels like that's the go-to. You're just crazy. You're just crazy. And I want to learn how women can feel not crazy during their divorce.
Right? Because I mean, how many times have you even sat down with friends, or if you've already moved through the divorce process and now you're dating again, right? And you meet somebody and, oh, my ex wife is crazy. It's all the time, it's all you hear. And so there is I'm sending out a call to action, ladies. We need to take our power back. Like, being crazy in the good way means that you are filled with love and abundance and grace, and you're able to move through things at a higher level. Being like slashing tires and screaming fits, that's a bad kind of crazy. And that happens when you have not healed your emotions. So, divorce is going to rock your world when it comes to emotions. It is going to hit all sorts of old wounds and issues and insecurities and things that have to be moved through. And if we don't move through them, if we don't process them out of the body, we're left feeling really crazy. Can we trust our intuition? Do we know what we're thinking? Can we trust this next person? Kind of wreaks havoc on all of the systems in our body.
Well, I will tell you this about trusting that next person. If what he has to say right out of the gates is my ex-wife was crazy, huge red flag.
Right there. I think that divorce needs a lot of acceptance and understanding and grace, because I have yet to see a divorce where two people aren't hurt. Even if one person acts like they're not hurt, I guarantee that they are. And so if we can just hold a little space before jumping to those judgments, the other one too, which let's not dive into that today, but like narcissism, that label is thrown all the time. So women are crazy and men are narcissistic, and we hear it all day long in all the conversations about divorce. And we just need to stop labeling and start looking at how we can help people move through where they're stuck.
Right. And I think that in every divorce, there is some level of responsibility on the part of both parties. Certainly, there are bad acts that your spouse can do, and don't let them blame you. They choose their own actions. But I'm saying there's a level of responsibility. Maybe you weren't as engaged in the relationship as you should have been, or maybe you weren't always truthful about certain things. You might have some responsibility.
Yeah, both sides have to take responsibility. If you've read about my story, there was infidelity in it, and it would be really easy to hop on the bandwagon and be like, it's all his fault. Well, infidelity wasn't the first challenge that we had, right? There were problems far before that. There was miscommunication from both sides. I had to own the places that I didn't show up as the wife that I wanted to be. And not because I was being mean, I just was overwhelmed. I was working full time. I had a toddler. My dad had died. I didn't have a lot left because I had been giving so much and not taking care of my own needs that there wasn't anything else to give. And so you've got to own your side of it too. We are, creating our own reality all day long. The choices you make create the things that show up in your life. And so if you're not going to own the choices you made that got you there, it's going to be really hard to be able to move forward.
Well, and it's gonna be really hard to have a better relationship the next time around.
Yes, because you know, we think that when we get divorced, that means like all the problems are done, right? When the paper is signed, oh, finally, I am done with this. And it really is just a new chapter. So, yes, the married part is done, but if you have kids, you have to still continue to co parent. If you don't have kids, the things that happened that betrayed your trust and broke your heart in that relationship will 100% show up in your next. There is this statement, it says, "Don't let old wounds bleed on new relationships," and I love that, right? Don't
Right.
let old stuff hurt the new things that are going forward. So there's always gonna be work. It's never really done. It always is part of who you are, but it doesn't have to own you, and it doesn't have to control you, and that is about taking that power back around feeling crazy. Don't let it run the show. Choose how you want to see it and how you wanna move through it.
Well, tell us a little bit more about your personal divorce story and then what led you to start your podcast, The Crazy Ex Wives Club.
Yeah. So, my story, I actually didn't want to get divorced. So, even after I found out about infidelity, I stayed for 2 years. We were separated for 2 years while I continued to try and persuade him to understand why there was enough to work on. There's a great book called, I think it's called Women Who Love Too Much, but it talks a lot about women, specifically like me. I gave and gave and gave to try and create enough, like, now they'll love me. Now there's enough value. Now they won't leave. And that's not a healthy or sustainable way to be in relationship. So, it was like 2015. He came home. We were trying for another baby. I thought we had gotten through the worst of it. Obviously, this wasn't the first rodeo in me thinking our marriage was done, but like, hey, okay, we're back on the same page. He comes home from the bar. I love you. I'm not in love with you. We just want different things. And he was done. There was, like, no awareness. Me, as the lover of all self-help books, had been trying for a really long time to figure out, how do we improve the communication? How do we improve where we're disconnected? So he came home and said that, and that started the 2-year separation, and it rocked my world. I mean, to the point that my physical being was shutting down. I lost 30 pounds in about 2 weeks. I couldn't eat,
Whoa.
even, like, a slice of apple without getting nauseous. My hair was falling out. My cycle was all messed up. I mean, everything. Complete adrenal fatigue, digestion shut down. The stress of being so afraid that I didn't know how was I gonna get my life back on track. Hadn't seen a future other than what this was supposed to be, and I was, like, paralyzed, and that sent me on a really good self-development path. The first year was hard. The first year, I was really just trying to persuade him to wanna work on it. He chose never to show up for therapy, chose never to work on it. I found out about the other woman a few months into it. He continued to say they weren't talking while they were continuing to date, and he just didn't understand why he didn't want to work on the marriage. And so that space, while painful, gave me a safe place to start to do the inner work. What did I really want in a partner? What did I really want? We'd hit these holidays and we'd be separated, and I'd start to think through. I remember it was specifically a 4th of July, and I was like, you know what I want? Somebody who wants to go take our son to see the fireworks. And yes, it's a pain in the ass. And no, we're not romanticizing it, but the kid loves it. And I want somebody who wants to go do that with me. And I want somebody who wants to set up Christmas Eve with me. I'm tired of doing all this stuff alone. And within that became the awareness that I was worthy of it. I had spent a lot of years feeling like my anger, my overwhelm, my shortness, I just was terrible to be in relationship with. And I realized that that was not the case. That was my own inner work that needed to be done.
Do you regret that 2 years of trying to keep the marriage going?
Funny, yes and no. Okay. So there are moments, our mind, our ego likes to create a lot of stories of why we're never good enough. Oh, they're skinnier than you, or they make more money than you, or who are you to be able to do that thing that you want? That's all smoke and mirrors. It is an old system trying to, quote unquote, protect us. And so sometimes my ego pops up, and I had a lot of shame for that, and I felt really guilty for that. Like, why did I continue to make excuses for 2 years for him? Why did I continue to allow this? If I had only started over earlier, I could have been further down my path than I am right now. But the reality is in every moment, we make the best choice we can. I was not ready to file for it until I filed for it. I was not ready to believe that it was over until I was ready to move forward on my own.
So, how does that get you to the podcast, The Crazy Ex Wives Club?
Right? So I spent 20 years in corporate America. My job was to write the behaviors we needed to succeed. So that was, how do you manage your inbox and how do you sell more stuff and how do you introduce products and all of those things, right? How do we lead better, healthier lives? And luckily, it was a lifestyle brand. So we did teach meditation and we did teach healthy eating and all of these other pieces. Well, when I left that company, I actually call it my second divorce. I was there 19 years. So I
Wow.
had grown up in the company. It truly was, who I was and my title and how I spoke in emails and all of that had to get redone, just like getting divorced. But I realized that you know, the behavior is literally like 20% of what you need to do to really create change. And what we need is the 80%, and that's the woo. That's why I talk about the woo and the do. It's the mindset, it's the energetics, how we talk about ourselves, the voice that we hear inside our head, the beliefs we have. That is 80% of your ability to succeed in whatever goal you set for yourself. So I knew I needed to leave because we were not teaching the woo at my job, and so I left. I started my own company to help people rewire fear. Fear had been a large part of my life. It had taken over almost every aspect, afraid to try new restaurants, afraid to go somewhere new, like all the things. And I didn't even realize they were fear. It just kept me small. So people kept telling me to start a podcast, and I really resisted it. But the universe will always bring it back around to you, like until it beats you over the head. So the podcast idea was percolating. I thought we were going to talk about all the different ways to heal. And then, as divine downloads do, one day I was like, the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, because I am your favorite crazy ex-wife. I did all the crazy things. I fought for a man who continued to cheat. I owned all the pieces of my own broken marriage that I had created. I chose to move forward and build something that was truly magical. And other people can be happier if they learn how to do the same thing. The women who are writing in, they feel supported, they feel heard. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm shifting how I think about things, and you guys, that is the first step to getting something different. If we can just crack you open a little bit on how you choose to see something, you'll start to do things different and you'll start to get different results.
Well, I like the idea that the crazy is us doing like our big goals, our big crazy goals, not doing that the silly behaviors that people might term crazy, like you said, the slashing of tires or things like that. No, I want the crazy to be the awesomeness that you're doing. Oh, wow, you decided you wanted to solo travel to another country. You didn't have the money. You said, I'm going to make it happen 2 years from now. And you made it happen. I love that crazy stuff.
Yeah, and because I chose to accept the other woman. I chose to create healthy boundaries around it. Like, there were a lot of pieces that were crazy. Did I lay on the floor and scream and cry? Absolutely. Absolutely, I had those moments too, because those were the moments when my emotions ran the show, and I realized that it felt terrible, and I didn't wanna feel like this. I didn't wanna feel out of control, but I did know that, like, my guiding principles are love and grace and abundance, and so every time my mind wants to flip a switch on something else, I'm like, "Hold on, am I extending grace for this person? Because I don't know what's going on in their life to have them leave a comment like this on social." Or am I focused on abundance because there is enough for everybody? And so those crazy foundations are what is gonna change all of your world around you. I'd have zero desire to ever run for office or do anything crazy, but I can change my friendship circle, I can change my community, I can change something as someone's day by doing something as little as opening the door for them and telling them that I really like their sunglasses that they're wearing. These are the things that we can do, and they create a big ripple of the good crazy. Like, be that person where like, "Dang, she is super friendly," or "She is always sharing compliments," or "She is always, willing to listen and help." Well, that's a good crazy.
Yeah. What did you do during your divorce to help yourself feel a little bit less crazy?
A lot of processing, a lot of processing, and, I started in therapy, on and off. I think I'd always gone to talk therapy. If you can't tell, I'm a very verbal processor. I talk out loud. My friends laugh. They don't even get, like, a word in before I have found the solution at the end of the conversation. But I started in therapy and it was not quite hitting the mark. You call to make the therapy appointment when you're crying, sobbing on the floor because something really hurt, but by the time you got in a few weeks later, you can't really remember why that thing bothered you. And so it was important to me on my own growth to find self-led healing modalities that I could do. When the emotions hit, that's when I needed the support, and that's when I needed to learn how to process it. So things like journaling, free writing, and then challenging, like, when that ego voice shows up to tell you that your life is never gonna be good again, you will never be happy again, you will never find a person again, write all those fears out in the journal, write them out, let all that energy and momentum drip out onto the page, and then when it's almost all out, ask yourself, "Is this really true? Is this really true? Can I guarantee that this is gonna happen?" Journaling was key in that because, my friends were not always available to answer the call. I did have a handful of people I could call for very specific reasons. I knew who was gonna rah-rah, "Your ex sucks." I knew who was gonna be like, "Hey, people try their best, and let's just try and pick up the pieces." There were different people for different types of support. And then I really just got curious about what my emotions were trying to teach me. So if I found a new therapy, one was called Rosen method. It's almost like a massage. It's like a laying of hands to release the tension in the body. I started reading about how emotions are always trapped in our physical self. Something as easy as stretching at the end of the day or going for a walk, bilateral stimulation, right, left, right, left. Those things help us process out what's stuck in the body. So you don't have to be in therapy, but you do have to listen to your emotions and then figure out what they're trying to tell you.
Well, sure. I think therapy is a common go to, and I think therapy is fantastic, but I recognize not everyone is in a financial position where they can afford to go to therapy or has insurance coverage for it or things like that. And so I think it's really important to have other options that can be helpful short of therapy.
Yeah, because I think that, just like any coach or any therapist, they're there to help teach you the tools you need to be able to take care of yourself. My son and I even went to therapy for him because I didn't know how to handle his emotional outbursts. I knew how to handle them for me as an adult, but as a kid, I didn't. So we went for a handful of sessions. I learned how to help him navigate his own emotions. He learned how to be empowered to navigate his own emotions. And then we didn't have to go back. I think that therapy should be treated like that, that it is a short term solution to give you the extra support, to teach you some new things you can do to take care of yourself so that you can now do it on your own. So it's a great thing, and I love that so many more insurance companies are covering it. And I love that mental health and wellness has become a topic, and there's a lot you can do for yourself, you guys. There is a lot you can do to process those crazies.
There is, I understand, one really big lesson that you learned in your own divorce.
Yes. So I learned how to be unconditionally happy. When you think about a relationship, you meet somebody, you're over the moon excited, you think that this other person has created all this happiness in your life. And the reality is that you're just finally lined up to your true self, right? You're confident in what you're saying to them, or somebody wants to hang out with you. You just feel really good about yourself. And as you get closer in a relationship, as things move towards divorce, right? The conditions show up. If you had done this differently, I wouldn't be so pissed right now. If you would have just taken out the garbage, if you could have just taken care of the kids so I could have gone to do something, or maybe you did get a weekend away and what happens next? You come back and your partner's resentful that you had time off and they didn't. And so we create all these conditions and we say, here's a hoop, jump through this hoop and then I can be happy. Here's another hoop, jump through this one and I can be happy. And the hoops are not what make you happy. But we think that somebody else is going to make us happy, teach us how to be happy, show us what happiness means. It's an inside job. And so the gift of that 2-year separation is I could change nothing about his choice. I thought I would be happy again when he came back to the marriage. And at the end of the 2 years, I was ecstatically happy and just really deep in the vibe of love and abundance for everyone I met. Things looked different. Coworkers The reactions and interactions were different because nothing had changed in that big condition. But I had changed because I had learned how to choose what I wanted to focus on. What little thing was going to surprise and delight me today? How did I want to react to a situation that was coming through? And it's so empowering because now you can never control me. Your actions can never be the thing that means that I don't get to be happy. I know that somebody can do something, somebody cuts you off on the road, you're irritated. You can choose to stay irritated, which means you drive more aggressively, maybe you honk, maybe you're kind of rude to the next car that you see, or you can choose to say, "Well, that sucked. That was annoying." Put on a song that makes you feel good again. Do some deep breathing to let go of it. That's unconditional happiness. It doesn't matter what happens around. And every time I think about, oh, I need somebody to jump through a hoop to make me happy, I know how to make myself happy. And that was part of that learning process.
So, for the woman who is thinking about divorce or in the middle of that divorce process, what can she do to help herself not feel so crazy?
Yeah. So, where do I want to go with this one? What am I feeling right now? If you are in the middle of it and you are really uncertain, should I stay or should I go? That is the worst time. And everybody stays in that phase the longest. You guys, we stay in this uncertainty. Is it really greener on the other side? Oh, he's starting to act a little better. Maybe I just stay a little bit longer and things get better. But it feels terrible because you have energy that is split between going and staying. And so I call it the gas pedal and brake pedal. I'm gonna go, and then brake pedal, no, I'm gonna stay. So, in those moments, what I want you to do is go general. Instead of saying, "Do I need to file for divorce?" Back that up to a statement of, "I'm not happy right now, and I am going to be able to make a decision on what I want when I get clear about what I really want." Right? Stop trying to answer the big question, the big elephant in the room, and look at the things that are around it. Do I know what I really want? Does this relationship meet those needs? I know that I don't have all the answers right now, but I know that every day I'm getting more clear and more confident. I know that I can figure out a solution to this. So you got to back yourself up because you get into indecision. And once you are locked in that, it is very hard to get out. You feel like you're spinning in a circle. So back it out, take the pressure off, and just make a general statement. One day I'm going to know. One day I'm going to know if I need to stay or go in this marriage. But today I don't know, and that's okay. We'll see if I know tomorrow.
Tell us about the free quiz that you have for our listeners to help them figure out where they are in this whole divorce process.
Yeah, so it's called Finding Your Way Forward, and it is a free quiz. I think it's 10 questions. It's meant to be fun. It's a little bit cheeky, but it helps you understand which phase of the divorce process you're in. Because when I launched the podcast, season 1, episode 1 talks about these 3 phases. The first phase is, do I stay or do I go? You're stuck in indecision. You don't know if it's the right choice. You're afraid to move forward. The second phase is, you've made the decision, you are divorced, but who are you now? Like, who am I now that I don't have this title of wife? Who am I now that I am the divorced friend in the friendship circle? And then the third phase is all about thriving with the new conditions of your life. So you're co parenting, maybe you're dating again. This is about, how do I create the life that I love while managing and navigating the new things that are a part of the picture that aren't going away. So the quiz guides you through a handful of questions. It tells you which phase of divorce you are in, and then it'll actually give you a tip sheet with a specific healing practice to help you get unstuck. So based on which phase you're in, I have put in there a tool or a technique to help you process the emotions that you're stuck in so that you can get clarity to be able to move forward.
And we can move towards that positive crazy that we talked about.
Yes, right? Because we all need to be positive crazy so we can take our power back from people thinking that crazy means it's bad. Like, let's own it. Let's own it we've got to own it in a good way, in a healthy, balanced, healed way.
Erica, thank you so much for being here. We are going to link to the quiz in the show notes as well as your website, your social media. It has been a delight talking to you today.
Absolutely. It has been so fun, Tracy. Thank you for having me on. And I cannot wait to hear what your listeners think about being the good kind of crazy.